Hello, everybody. I am Ray Samich, along with Ratanjit and Ray on this Valentine's Day weekend program. Ratanjit, how are you today?
Wonderful, Ray. How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you. And I am excited. Sometimes we really don't pick a topic until the last minute before a show, whatever kind of comes to the top of our heads or the top of our souls or whatever it is. But today we're talking about something that you had planned out for the last few days because this is Valentine's Day weekend.
Yes.
And Valentine's Day is kind of when we think about love. And you came up with a really interesting take, which I appreciated seeing because we always talk about falling in love. That is always the terminology that I always remember. You fall in love, you're falling in love. And yet the word fall kind of in our definitions in our minds is kind of a negative. When you fall, you get hurt. When you fall, you go down, and sometimes you can't even get back up when you fall. And yet you came up with the idea of rising in love.
Yes.
And I thought that was really intriguing. So on today's show, we're going to talk about that. What does it mean to fall in love versus rise in love? And I think it is appropriate for stress-free living because there's a lot of people who have a challenge in their love life, a challenge with the people they love, and it's creating stress for them. Maybe their relationships aren't what they want them to be, and it causes stress. They're trying to make their relationships better, and they're not going better. It causes them anxiety, causes them worry, causes them stress. So I think it's a very appropriate topic today for this Valentine's Day weekend to help people rise in love.
Yes.
So how do we start talking about this? Why do we say fall? Let's start with that. Why do we say fall in love? I never thought about it until you came up with that idea. Why do we fall in love? It's like that's a bad thing. It should be a good thing.
See, imagine you are in a boat, and suddenly there are a lot of you have some. You discover there are stones, heavy stones at the bottom of it, and you suddenly need to get more people in. So you wanted to unload the stone so that you can accommodate more people into the boat.
Okay.
So you said, okay, let's throw these stones in the ocean or river.
Right.
So when you started throwing the stone, suddenly you realize the strings are tied to your hand or your legs. So you are going with the stone. So the love which is tied with the strings is going to sink you. If the stones were not tied with the strings to your body, you can throw the stones. So we are attached to people because we have the strings we have attached in our worldly sense are ownership. This is my spouse, this is my children, this is my friend, this is so that my is the string attached. So if you are loving me, how can you love this other person? So those are the strings attached which make you fall. To rise in love, you cannot have love with any condition or any strings attached.
All right. We have to really backpedal here because you've introduced some concepts that are a little bit heavy. So I like your analogy. I love how you give those. And everybody can kind of picture throwing stones out of a boat. That's an easy idea. And then when you realize, oh my gosh, they're attached to my legs. If I throw the stones out, I'm going out with it. I get that. We don't want to throw ourselves out of the boat and go into the water and drown. And then, by the way, those stones are still attached to us when we're in the water. So now we're going right down to the bottom. So that's not a good thing at all. So I get that whole concept. Let's let's talk about what those stones are and those strings are, so we better understand what you're talking there. Because I like to think that I make my decisions of who I love and how I want to act with them independently and totally on my own. Are you saying that I don't do that? Are you saying that most people connect to others in such a way that we're creating these burdens, we're creating these stones on us that we're attaching?
See, there are three things. Um, you said that I want to select who I want to love.
Yeah.
That is conditional. So then you are looking for a reason to love, means the benefit you are going to get from loving somebody. Either they are, they have wealth, they are beautiful, or they, they make you happy, or they have good sense of humor, or whatever the reason is. So those are the things which you are looking for to love somebody. So that itself is a condition.
Let's take a step back, because maybe we should have started with this whole different understanding. I was raised to say you love everybody. You're supposed to love everybody. Okay. With my faith and everything, I was always told, my mother always said, love everybody. But I also knew that I wasn't going to be able to form a perfect bond. I mean, you've been married to your beautiful wife, Dolly, for 50 years, right? And
55 years.
55 years, okay. And I've been married 43 years. So, I mean, we both found a person that we want to spend our life with. And that's a fabulous, beautiful thing. So isn't there a difference, though, between you found Dolly and the fact that you love everybody? Or is it the same thing? I look at those as different things.
Well, see, in your case, you fell in love
Yes,
and then you got married.
right?
In my case, I was married and then I understood love. When I was married, I got married, it was an arranged marriage. We did not even see each other. We were committed to each other.
Wow. Yeah.
And so we saw each other and we couldn't find anything wrong with each other. So we said, okay, it's not bad. Let's get married. because I wanted to come to US and I'm the only child. And the only way my mother would let me come to US is if I get married.
Okay. Okay.
So that was, Dolly was my ticket to come
Wow.
to US.
Yeah. Does she know that, or is she going to just find this out now after 55 years?
She knows that.
Okay. All right. Good.
So,
I'm going to have any problems over at that house today, later on today. Okay.
and then I'll tell you what happened. You know, a interesting story. We were married for a month or so, and there was a big wedding in the friend circles of the family. So I was always nitpicking on what Dolly looks like and what she wears and all that. I told her, so look, this marriage, you have to be perfect. Yeah, you have to wear this sari or this. So by now she was tired of my critique.
Yeah.
So what she did is the household help, they wear cotton saris, the cheapest cotton sari.
Okay.
So she asked her, like, get me a white cotton sari. The cheapest.
The simplest, right? Okay.
Yeah. And of course, she wanted a new one so that she didn't want to wear for what she was wearing. So she got her a new one and very inexpensive. So she starched it. It was white color with a little border, and she starched it well. She wore it, and she says, "This is what I'm going to wear. Take me or not. It's up to you." So I was frustrated, but I had no choice.
Yeah.
And then in this gathering, I found myself complimenting all these wonderful audience, ladies with diamond and this and jewelry and all that. And then I looked further. Dolly was talking to a friend, and she looks like an angel.
Hmm.
But I mean, the way you wear things is more important
Right.
than what you wear.
Yeah.
So I said, oh my God, look, Ratanjit, what are you doing? You are not seeing the beauty in her. So at that time, I made a decision to myself. I said, for the rest of my life, I will never critique her. And that became the foundation of our whole relationship.
Hmm.
Even up today, I do not critique her. And when she critiques me, I find that is the reason that the way she's expressing love. So any action of her, I see love in it. So I live in the ocean of love, but I do not possess her.
Right. Right. Let's go back to, because there's probably some people listening that didn't know you had an arranged marriage. Maybe a lot of people didn't know that. That's still actually done in India, not as much, but it's still part of the culture, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So, but 55 years ago, it was very much a part of the culture. So you said you knew of her, you knew that she was a family, in the family somewhere, but you didn't grow up with her, you didn't know her, didn't watch her, all those kind of things. Do you think it would have been better falling in love beforehand and then getting married, the kind of the way that we do it in America, or what? I mean, I can't kind of imagine that. I mean, that's just so far different from my culture. It's hard enough to have a relationship in this country. I mean, most marriages end in divorce, even when you pick them, let alone when they're prearranged. So what is your feeling now that you've gone through this 55 years? A prearranged marriage, is that a good thing?
Well, see, what happens is even when you fall in love here, somebody introduces you,
Yeah.
right? Somehow you get in touch. Somehow you get to know them, and then you go around and dating and get to know a little more, and finally you decided that this person is good. So we had kind of a dating after marriage. So it's the same thing we went through, and we found each other to be. And then there was another incentive because we were married to regardless. So we have to look for good things in each other.
Right. That's the difference.
That's the
I
difference.
mean, when you do that before you get married, it's almost like you look for a reason to get out of the relationship,
Yeah.
not to keep it. And whereas in your marriage, you were saying, well, we're married now, so I have to look for the good in every situation. I mean,
But the thing is that
frames it differently.
there are so many amazing qualities in her. See, our marriage is one-sided. She definitely could have had a much better uh, partner than she found. So I always kid her and says, your choice is not as good as mine.
I feel the same way, by the way. Yes, I understand where you're coming from.
So she had made me much better person than I could have ever imagined that. And this is all because of her. So
Is that what we should? Did you just give a major gold nugget there? Is that what we should look for? Should we look for somebody who makes us better?
yes, well, you see, the thing is that uh, ultimately you have to understand why do we need to make ourselves better, or is there something in us which is becoming a hurdle for us to become better? So let's take a quick break and then come back, and then I want to go into that thought process, and so that way we understand why we are we have jealousy, we have greed, we are afraid. All these things are there in me which are becoming a hurdle, which are becoming a string to the stone, which I can throw out. So if I don't have those strings, then I can get rid of the burden in my life and I'm free.
I think I'm gonna even change that question just a little bit, and then we'll get to the one you just talked about. Are we supposed to be with somebody? Are we supposed to be to find that person, or are we supposed to be alone? And or does that depend on the person? You know, so it could go either way depending on who we are. But I wonder sometimes, does that person in our life make us better, or could it make us worse if we were supposed to be alone? Because I know people who have never been with anybody, married or had a serious relationship, and they've been extremely successful and have done wonderful things, and vice versa, you know. And so I wonder, does it change for everybody? I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. Are we intended to be with others, or does that just kind of happen sometimes and it's okay?
Yes.
We'll ask that question first. When we come back, we're on Stress Free Living today and talking about love. We fall in love? Do we rise in love? What is love anyway? Maybe it's about time we figured that one out. We'll be right back in just a moment. Okay. Okay. I like so far? All kinds of things all over the board so far. It's interesting the contrast that you said there with me falling in love first and getting married and you having a prearranged. And in both cases, 40, 50 years is a long time. So it shows that both can work. It's just interesting the contrast between the two ways of doing it. Like you said, you kind of dated after you got married. I dated before we got married. So I think that was kind of enlightening.
Yeah, so ultimately, it is not about, see, in this path which we are, in this journey of life, you can travel alone or you can travel with your partner. Ultimately, you are conducting a journey. But if the journey, purpose of the journey is simply to satisfy our human needs rather than having a greater purpose, if you are tied to a greater purpose, you already enhance your relationship.
Okay, I hope you memorize that because that's a great way to answer the question that I just asked you.
Well, I hardly, you know me, I don't remember.
Try real hard to repeat that again.
I don't remember what I said.
Uh-oh. Okay, think about it now. It's about what our purpose of the journey is.
That's where you come from.
Oh, gee.
You have.
I'll try to keep you on track, but I have to ask you the question. You're on your own first.
You're not going to fire me, are you?
No, never. Not after this many years. You can fire me, but I can't fire you. Okay, we're in the last 30 seconds, I think. I think it's in my respiratory breathing congestion. And we're back on Stress Free Living. Ratanjit and Ray with you today. Thank you so much for joining us as we are talking about love on this Valentine's Day weekend and hopefully rising in love as opposed to falling in love. Ratanjit, I asked a question just before we went to the break because I'm sure there's a lot of people that wonder about this. Were we created to find a partner? Were we created to go through life by ourselves? And if we happen to find somebody to share it with, that's a good thing. For some people, maybe for other people, it doesn't matter. What are your thoughts on that? There's a lot of people that spend their whole life trying to find somebody, and maybe they finally do later in life. Maybe they never do. There's other people that find it right off the bat. There's some people that go through 5 marriages looking for the right one. What do you think on that? Is that part of how we're made to be with somebody or not?
Well, see, if we are looking to get married to satisfy our personal needs, what I need, they look beautiful, they'll have more money, they have good. So those are the things. Until we have a common purpose, which is bigger than both of us, you cannot have a strong marriage. You cannot have a strong relationship. See, ultimately, Ray, we are born to die. We come here for a very short period, although it looks like 50 years, 100 years, long life. But it really passes. I still remember when I landed in US in 1968.
Yeah.
It's more than 50 years ago. And suddenly, very quickly passed by.
Right.
So life is going to pass very quickly. So why are we here? We are here waiting to die. We are here collecting all these good things. We are here to produce children. We are here to do what? So until our overall mission is understood that we are a value creating entity, we are here to make our surroundings better. We are here to make anybody who comes across in our life feel better. We are here to enhance the goodness in every situation. If that becomes your mission, then obviously, while you are distributing goodness, you end up going to distribute goodness to also your partners. So, who would not like that relationship where goodness is given to you in that relationship? So, that is how you rise in love. If you are looking for things for you, what am I going to get? You haven't said, I love you. You haven't done this for me. You haven't done that for me. If you go on that path, you are going to fall in love. You're going to go down. Your stone is tied to your feet. You are going to sink. To get rid of the thread which ties you to the stone, you become unconditionally a person who creates goodness in every situation, enhances value in every situation. And then you begin to nurture, you begin to manufacture love within you. So when a person is lonely, it is not because he or she does not have loved ones around them. It is only because they have not cultivated the love within them. So until you cultivate love within you and you are able to make an amazing manufacturing factory right within you, love is coming out of you, you cannot give love unconditionally.
I've asked you a couple of questions here that you've given tremendous wisdom and thoughts and answers, but I don't think you've answered either of the questions. And okay, one of them, as I said, what's the distinction between loving everybody and finding that one soulmate, let's call that person, use that term. And what's the difference between that? And then I also asked you, do you think that we were intended to find that one person, or just, or it doesn't matter if we don't, if we're still adding goodness to the world, it doesn't matter if we never have that one relationship. So I think people would be curious with your takes on these, and even though I loved your answers, I don't know if we've understood how your answers connect to my questions. Do we? So let me ask them again. Do you? Is it different how we love one person versus how we love everybody else? Is that the same thing that we should be looking at, loving everybody, and maybe it depends on the ones that respond as opposed to how we treat one person specifically?
So I'll share another story with you. My friend, we were classmates in college and all that. So he fell in love with this girl. And there was a great romance, and they made good pair. But so happened that they were from different castes. In India, the caste system is still very strong.
Mm-hmm.
So their parents insisted that there's no way they're going to get married. So they married my friend, to another girl. And this girl also was in love with somebody else.
Oh my.
And so two hearts were broken to gather this marriage. So they hated each other when they got into marriage, right?
Sure.
And it so happened, as the time went, my friend was actually a very, very good, decent human being, very kind, value adding. So it was not in his DNA to be a hating or
Cruel person.
cruel person. So when I met them after a year and a half, and his wife, I asked them, I said, well, how is your marriage going? She says, we could have never found a better companion than what we found.
Well,
They fell in, they were in love, deeply in love with each other. So it really, in theory, although what I'm going to say, people are not going to agree with me, but I believe that it really does not matter who you marry. It depends on whether you have love within you. You are going to survive that marriage. If you don't have the love within you, the best person you marry, you are still going to have problems. So ultimately, it doesn't matter who do we conduct our journey with, our life journey partner. If we have a clear mission, both of partners have a clear mission to make a difference to their surroundings, to each other, to their family, to their neighbors, to their society, to environment, then they are ultimately going to have a beautiful journey together. Because ultimately, both of us end up dying at a different time. We leave each other. We are only here for a short period of time together. So if we conduct our journey with a purpose, then that becomes a joy in our life. And then our partner becomes, or basically, two of us become one in that journey to make a difference. So we begin to comprehend. See, it's like in a business partner, you are in business. So if you have somebody who is working with you in sync with the same mission as you have for the business as that person has, they become very good partners. And in business also, if you are only focused on making money, that business is going to fail. If you are focused on making a difference to your customers, adding the highest value to the customers, your business is going to succeed. It's not about the best product you have or the best technology you have, the best team you have. It is all about whether you are able to add the highest value to your customer. That's how you maintain your customer. And when you have employees who are also focused on adding the highest value, they will begin to feel better about themselves. You will have loyal employees working in your company because inside of us feels the need to make a difference.
That's all beautiful, and it does answer the questions pretty well. But I'm intrigued when you say that you think it really kind of doesn't matter who we end up with. It's up to us. It's not really up to that other person anyway. But why we're such an incredible computer? Our human body is so amazing. We were created, we were designed to be perfect computers in terms of knowing what to do automatically, how we act, how we think, how we live. I mean, we are an amazing, everybody gets so excited about phones and computers and everything. And yet, if you look at the human body, how it's designed and built and operates, it's incredible. And yet, this human body, when it starts relationships, is all about the physical attraction. It's how she looks or he looks, how cute they are, how pretty they are, how how they feel with my arm around them. Okay, those kind of things that we envision based on physical elements. I don't think that there's been many relationships that have started because a person said that person will make me better. I mean, maybe it ended up that way. Hopefully it did. But I don't think that was the drawing card across the other side of the room. It was a physical attraction. Why is that? Why, if it's all about ultimately adding value and finding someone to connect with unconditionally, then why didn't our Creator give us more value on that aspect of it and less value on the fact that, boy, she's beautiful?
So there are two things. So when you start a relationship with somebody, yes, those initial physical attractions or those things are important.
Yeah.
But if your relationship goes on for 3 years, 4 years, and if that relationship lasts, the reason that relationship lasts is because in the presence of that person, somehow you feel better. And so you talked about the amazing computer this human body is.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 3 aspects of this human body. So if we don't understand the 3 aspects, we will not realize the true potential this human experience offers us. So one is the human body itself. It is designed by nature to survive. This human body knows that it is going to age. It is subjected to pain, heat, cold, it is subjected to suffering. So one day it is going to die. So human body forever remains in fear. It remains in greed because it is hungry. If enough food is not available, it is going to starve. So it wants to save, it wants to collect more things. So human body also is competitive because it knows if this another human body comes, I have to share with it, or I would have less. So I'm always going to be parked in jealousy. I'm going to always have a feeling of whether I am better than this other person. I would have greed, I would have ego. All those things are going to be there. So there's nothing right or wrong about it. All of us have that. This comes with this human body.
Okay.
Now, if your brain, which is an amazingly creative tool gifted to us, if brain is controlled by this human body, it's going to always figure out how to be more greedy, how to be more jealous, how to be angry, how to be all these things. Now, the third part is the real us. The real us is the one which gives life to this human body. Ultimately, human body is nothing more than a car you are driving. It's a vehicle to carry you. If you are not able to comprehend the real you, which is the power which enlivens you, you are going to be spending your entire life in all the manipulations of this human body. And you can never satisfy this human body. It forever is part in more. So if you focus on this human body and look at the love, then you want to possess that love. It's mine. And then when you get older, then your whole focus changes. So unless, Ray, we are able to comprehend the power which enlivens me and understand that is who I really am, I cannot understand others either, because once you see the power which is me, you see the same power enlivening others. So that is where the true love comes from, because you love the perfect soul, the perfect power which is enlivening you, which has no flaws. Human body would always have flaws. It is somebody's more beautiful than you, somebody's more talented than you, somebody's all that. So that is always going to, we are always going to compare. I'm better than him, or she's better than me. But if you look at you as the enlivening force, power, universal power, which is present in each one of us, which is bringing life in us, first of all, that never dies. So there is no fear of death. You are not greedy. All those things which are problems with the human body mode go away. And then only we are able to love somebody unconditionally, because you begin to love that power present in the person, not the outer shape.
There have been so many thoughts that you have shared over the last 40 minutes or so. So many abstract ideas. When we come back after the last break here, hopefully we can kind of put a rope around all of them and figure out, what do we do with this knowledge, with these thoughts? How do we actually apply this to our life so that we can live it without stress? We can live it with more joy and peace in our hearts. Because right now my brain is a little confused. I loved everything I've heard today, but I'm not exactly sure what to do with it. So let's come back and see if we can wrap it all up into a nice little package for this Valentine's Day weekend. Ratanjit and Ray with you, Trusty Living, talking about rising in love. We'll be right back. I don't know if it's because my brain is confused, or if we're just in all directions here. I loved everything you said. Everything is great, but I don't know if it
what to do with it.
I don't know what to do with it. So let's come back and try to do some action steps. Like how do we implement this in our life? I think what you just said there, I think maybe you want to start back with it is not have the fear. I think I would come back with that, because that really does dictate fear of making a mistake, fear of being alone, fear of choosing the wrong person, fear of not finding the right person. I think that really is it's a big hindrance to a lot of people. So maybe you should put that back on the table of saying you have to be without fear. Just a thought. But if we can kind of wrap this up into like what do we do with all this?
Yeah, so that only comes when you are in the mindset of, if the mind is controlled by the enlivening power, then mind understands that there's no fear, because suddenly you are not associated with death, you are not associated with pains and suffering. So that doesn't mean that your body's pain and suffering or hunger is going to go away. What you mean is you begin to serve this body rather than being dictated by this body. You have this car begins to become obsession, then it dictates your life. But if car is a vehicle, you still take care of the car, you provide fuel to the car, you take care of it, you maintain it. But you understand my purpose is this car only takes me from one place to another.
Right. Maybe start with that, brother. Start with that. We can relate to that idea of recognizing it's a car, and that if you spend all your time polishing the car and keeping the car in perfect condition, it's important to do that, but you lose focus on what that car's purpose is. Just to be the vehicle, it's not really you. Maybe that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if I remember all that.
I know. Let's think of the car. Think of the car when you come back. That's a good place to start. We'll see. We'll see where it goes from there. But I like it. I'll prompt. And we are back on Stress-Free Living. Ratanjit and Ray with you today, this Valentine's weekend, talking about love, talking about rising in love. Ratanjit, for so many of these shows that we've done over the years, I feel by this time that we have kind of talked things through. For some reason or other today on this show, maybe it's me, maybe it's because love is so complicated. I mean, this is probably one of the biggest mysteries of our human life for generations. What really does love mean, and how do we really conquer it and use it to its fullest? So maybe we're just bit off more than we can chew today in a 1 hour show. But I've loved everything you've talked about. Every detail that you've mentioned here has made sense. But for somebody listening right now who is challenging for whatever reason, and there's very few perfect relationships out there. I mean, there's very few situations where somebody says everything is perfect in my relationships. There's some people that are struggling even more. What do you recommend? How do we start? What do they do to put themselves in the right frame of mind, frame of heart, frame of soul to be able to live a joyful, peaceful life, with or without the type of love that we're talking about?
The real love cannot coexist with greed, fear, insecurity, jealousy, all those things. When they're present, love is only an illusion, is a possession. This is mine. That is what love becomes. So love is only possible in the spiritual mode, in the mode of understanding that I am the power which enlivens me. So it's like during the break we mentioned about the car. So if it is the vehicle, if you are just got 17 years of age and your dad is a rich guy and got you a sports car, and you are obsessed with this car. You are polishing, if somebody touches it, you get mad, and it's all about car. And but if this car is possessing you, rather than realizing that car is nothing more than a vehicle, if you do not have a destination to go, then you will be just going around the block showing off the car. But if you have a car which is taking people, older people to hospital, or you are helping somebody through this car, it is a vehicle which is taking you from one destiny to another. But realize that this car need to be maintained. So you cannot neglect the car, otherwise it won't function. So you have to feed the car, you have to fuel the car, you have to properly service the car. It has to operate properly, tires have to have properly aired. So all that thing have to take care of it. Similarly, human body, which is gifted to us, we must take care of the body rather than abuse the body. So what happens is we get caught in the pleasure of the five senses: what tastes good, what looks good, your lust, your all these things are completely uh, inundating you. So you spend all your life in this short-lived pleasures. They are short-lived because if you are hungry, you love food, and if you see this food, delicious food, oh my God, you are in heaven. If you continue eating that food, it'll make you sick. So the window of pleasure is limited. So if we spend all our life in this pleasure game, pleasing ourselves through five senses, then ultimately you will be disappointed. But there is another element, which is joy. Joy comes from giving, making somebody else feel better. In other words, when you recognize the real you, which is enlivening the body, the same real you, exactly the same power which enlivens you, enlivens somebody else. If you, instead of serving the vehicle, you begin to serve the owner which sits in the vehicle, then it gives you joy. It gives you ultimate freedom. It really where the love comes. The true love happens when you begin to serve the enlivening divine force present in everyone. So it doesn't matter then what the outer car looks like, whether the outer person is old, young, beautiful, ugly, doesn't matter, because you are now serving a flawless entity which is enlivening them, which is making them alive. And by serving that entity, you are producing joy in your own entity. So you feel elevated, you rise. That is the love which makes you rise. All the other love experienced by your five senses is going to make you drown. You're going to fall. And that is unsustainable, Ray. That is why we always are blaming some situation or other. We are blaming our partner, we are blaming the economy, and we are blaming all our life because we are not happy. Happiness is tied to experiencing joy, and the joy comes from unconditional adding value. Joy comes from making a difference to the divine present in others, irrespect, uh, irrespective of what they look like, who they are. So we are serving the universal power.
So this into steps. The first that I heard you say is this realization that the only love that matters is the love of this enlightening internal power. Okay, that's anything with our five senses, anything with our human mode is probably going to end up in some kind of a disappointment because it's going to put conditions on it, and it's going to put judging on it, and everything else, and it's not going to go where we want it to go. But if we can bring ourselves down to the real us, okay, that's probably the best place to go, because then we don't have the fear element either. Then we don't have the worry about not having anybody, or not having the best, or dying without ever loving, or all those other kind of things. They're off the table at this point. So am I right? That's the first thing to stop, is this reality, right? Then the second thing is that stop looking for somebody and start figuring out what we need to do. Is that the second step? Now that I understand who I really am and what brings me joy, now I have to do that. I have to implement that.
So see, to select the partner, suddenly your criteria becomes not just their beauty or their wealth or their intelligence or any of these outer things. The criteria becomes if they share the same purpose in life, if they comprehend this wisdom and they can be your partner in carrying out that task of adding the highest value, then that makes a perfect partnership. So otherwise, all the other partnerships are associated with this human shell, which is never going to be perfect. You're going to sooner or later find some imperfection. And we do. And that's why we end up, the person who you are in madly love with, you end up divorcing. You end up criticizing, you end up diminishing, you end up getting angry with. All that happens because you are associating your love with the outer shell.
In reality, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Right.
By falling in love, because there's no way that person could ever, in an imperfect body, could ever be the perfect person that you're trying to make them out to be.
Yeah, so, whereas there is a perfect person sitting in everyone.
Right.
But
right.
As long as you can find a purpose, if they are overly preoccupied by this human body mode, and you are not going to be able to change them, then your life spent with the person who is overly occupied with the human body mode is going to be difficult. If they understand this thought process and they are able to comprehend that their purpose is to make a difference together, then it makes a perfect partner for you.
I just suggested that other person could never live up to what you expect, but in the same way, you could never be what they expect either.
Right.
Because it's all about the shell. It's all about the appearance, and it's about the outwardly things, and not falling in love, or in your case, rising in love by really realizing the best value of that person is that unconditional, perfect person on the inside.
You rise in love by adding value. You fall in love by expectation of somebody loving you. So it is all about adding the highest value in life, because that is the only reason we are placed here. But you cannot do that in the human body mode. You can only do that in the spiritual mode of realizing that you are really the power which enlivens you.
It is a very complex topic. It truly is. I mean, there's no wonder that millions of books have been written on love, and all kinds of people, brilliant people, have talked about what love really means and how to find it.
It's
But
actually very simple, right?
that's what I was going to say. But you've made it very simple here, Ratanjit. You
yeah,
just rise in love by appealing to the real person that's within us and using that real person to form that foundation of love.
yes.
Ratanjit, thank you so very much, as always, for sharing your thoughts and your love with all of us. And I wish you a wonderful Valentine's Day, Ratanjit, and
Thank you.
to Dolly too.
And you feel better. I just take care of yourself. So I sense something in your voice and your eyes. So
I
please,
always feel better after our programs. Always, always. Ratanjit, I know you share this moment in wishing all of our listeners a life of love, a lifetime and eternity with knowing the real us and loving others for all time. Thank you for being with us here today, everybody. And Ratanjit, thank you. And we look forward to being with you again very soon. Remember, folks, we're all playing the same game. Have a great day.
thank you.